Good morning and welcome to Living with Favor. Let's grab that cup of coffee, sit down, and get ready for a book chat. I've recently been traveling the last 2 weeks. I was in South Dakota for a buffalo roundup, and then I went up to Yellowstone and was camping at freezing. It was 31, 33, 34, 32, somewhere in those ranges, the low 30s temperatures overnight. And it was chilly, but I brought a great book. I love to read before I go to bed, and I had my little headlamp on, and I revisited this book one more time, and it's called You Can Be Proud or You Can Be Proud or Rich. And it's 52 life lessons to live by. And this is from a gentleman named Peter Swain, who I have had the honor, the pleasure, um, of spending many mornings, Monday through Friday. I'm part of a group, an executive networking group that's called the Morning Rush, and David Rush is the host of that. And Peter is one of the regular contributors. And when he wrote this book, I picked it up and I've read it through. You can, it's getting a little tattered because I use it really as a reference. It's like when I'm struggling, I'll open it up, and his words of wisdom are incredibly poignant. Like they just hit the mark. I wrote the description of this, that it's a no nonsense, short, valuable lessons that can actually change your life. And when you start to shift the way that you think and the way that you see things change. When we choose to see them differently, when we choose to turn them inside out or 180 degrees or flip them around, we start to notice things that were always there, but we didn't see them. So I'm going to share my notes. I have notes in some of the corners, and if Peter ever listens to this, he may disagree with my take on these things. But the beauty of these kinds of life lessons books are they talk to you where you are in your situation. So when you read this book, you'll also get life lessons, but you may perceive the writings a little bit differently. But this man is incredibly brilliant. He's been owned 4 different businesses previous to this book. I know that he has his hands in lots of other things. So he's entered and exited these businesses successfully. He's influenced thousands of people around, tens of thousands of people around the world with his message, his knowledge, his confidence, his ability to communicate, and the way that he communicates is spot on. He is concise. He digs into and discovers the truth. And he's one of those people, one of those children that grew up to an adult that always says, why? Why? Why does it work that way? Why does it work that way? And so, I can't imagine what it'd be like to live with him. His wife and his children probably have to go through that. His process of discovery, his curiosity for life, and knowing how things work inside and out. But we get to enjoy his brilliance in this book. And the other thing is even if you get a ton of takeaways from here, I want to encourage you to go buy the book. It's not an expensive book. We're talking maybe $10 or a little over. But all the profits of this book go to Lemonade Day. And Lemonade Day is a charity that works with inner city kids to bring out their inner entrepreneur. And I've been an entrepreneur since I was I'll say 18 years old, because I did work for other companies waiting tables when I was 15, 16, 17, and 18. But I got my real estate license at age 18, and I've never looked back. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. And so I advise entrepreneurs, I work with entrepreneurs. I too have had the good fortune of having successful businesses, many failures as well, because that's just part of the process. And there's actually a quote in this book that talks about those failures that I'll share with you shortly. But I also have 13 great nieces and nephews that have had their own entrepreneurial journeys where they took their allowance and they went to the dollar store and they bought treats and set up a table or used the picnic bench at the park where kids were playing basketball and practicing. And they started to sell water and candies and treats. And they were walking around with a roll of money in their pocket. And it was so funny because it was like, yeah, it was completely innocent, but you see kids walking around with a roll of money, and kind of makes you wonder what they've been up to. But even the police officers that visited that park would purchase waters and things from them, and they supported their entrepreneurial spirit. So I love to see that. They've also made bracelets and done trade shows, and their mom is incredibly supportive of all of those things. This is how they hack school. They're homeschool kids that they get to have different experiences because they're homeschooled and because they have an auntie who is an entrepreneur, and I get to lead the way and be of encouragement. And then I have on the other side of the family, I have a couple of kids who have also started their own businesses, dog walking and doing computer setup for folks. And kids today just look at things a little bit differently. So it's twofold. You get the benefit of this book, you get the life lessons, and you get to support entrepreneurism in young people, which is hugely valuable in this time. Actually, anytime. It's brilliant that we open up kids' minds to what they can do to make money and how they can serve the world and how they can show up and be the change we want to see in the world. So I'm going to start with chapter 1. You can be proud or you can be rich. Peter says this is the best advice he was ever given. And I'm going to take a little clip from each of these. You have to go dig deeper, get the book and read the chapters. But his comments here are: instead of listening and absorbing it, you always give me an excuse. This is one of his mentors had said to him. Serving your ego and not your outcome. My takeaway here is, do we listen? My dad always said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. How are you using them? Listen. When we, in business, when we dive into and ask questions and get curious about what it is that someone needs or what is working for them or what is not working for them, we are better suited. We're better able to find a solution for them and to notice or realize if what we have is a solution for them. I've learned after 40 years in business that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I can't solve everybody's problems. I can't serve every entrepreneur that I meet. I have to be selective. I'm one person and my methods aren't going to work for everyone, but they will work for my ideal client. And I only know if someone is my ideal client if I start to listen, ask questions, get curious. What's working? What's not working? What do you need? What is the outcome that you're trying to achieve? What do you want? That's the bottom line. But if we don't know, all we're doing is pitching our business and we don't even know if it's beneficial to somebody. So whether it's a relationship with your teenage kids, listening to what it is that they want and trying to figure out how to get that for them or allow them to get it for themselves, or it's that high-end client that you're trying to land, listening is what we need to know and not make excuses for why we're not listening. So that's my takeaway from that one. Chapter 2. Being right doesn't always serve you. Simply put, being right is great, but when it comes at the expense of others being wrong, we have a problem. We really do have a problem because that's not win-win. And in the game of success, we need to play win-win. It needs to be a win for us and a win for them. Again, finding out what works for them. But being right and being able to listen to someone and help to express your views, not to change their mind, but to just be certain of who you are, how you're showing up and what the way that you see things, but really being open to listening to other people's points of view. It's not like they're going to change your mind just by sharing how they see the world. And we all are a product of our experiences. We are the person that we are because of the things that we did in elementary school, because of the parents that we had, the first teacher that we had, the coach that we had in sports, the employees that we had to serve throughout our life, or the bosses that we had to serve throughout our life. We are a product of all of those experiences. So people have different experiences. And they can be right for them, but they may not be right for you. So it's not about arguing for being right and making somebody else wrong. We can all be right from our perspective. But as Peter will say shortly, there is truth in everything, and seeking out that truth is more important than just saying right or wrong. There is a right answer for everything. And that is a chapter in this book. People are fragile, so try not to step on their toes. My notes in the margins here are: edify, lift up, praise, use kindness and love when you're speaking to people. Listen with understanding. Focus on making other people powerful, and that will make you right. All right. Chapter number 3, knowledge is linear, but your output is exponential. He lists in here, he talks about 80% of, you can learn 80% of something, but it's the last 20% that really causes you to be the master. It's that Pareto's principle of 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people. 80% of the income comes in from 20% of the products that you sell. That 80-20 rule still applies here in knowledge. So do you want to become a master, or do you want to get by and just know enough? And I often said, and I'm not proud of this, but I will tell on myself, as I often do on this show, is that I am a jack of all trades and a master of none. I've done really well for myself in learning a little bit about a lot of different things. I'm a great conversationalist. You can throw me into any environment with any group of people, and I will be able to have a conversation and find something in common. But I am not, in my opinion, an expert at many things. I have been given a certificate as a master herbalist, and I don't ever tell people that. I say I'm an herbalist because the only masters that I know are the people that I learned from, or my grandmother, who was an herbalist for 60, 70 years. I'm not in that category. I've been an herbalist more than 40 years, but I know a lot of things, but I don't know everything. And so we get to define master for one. Where does that fall for you? I'm not at what I consider a master level. There's so many different things that I could learn about herbalism, but I am a master at the ones that I've chosen to learn. Those 20 herbs that I use every day, they're part of my life. I know the ins and outs. I can wield them in many different ways, use them for mind, for body, for spirit, for cleansing. I can use them in many different ways because I've studied and I've honed in on those, but there's many things that I haven't. So are you a master, or are you a jack of all trades? Is there some place where you can spend a little bit of time, maybe reading a chapter a day? There's another author that says just by reading 15 minutes a day, you can become an expert in your field in only a year. But we have to invest. We have to invest time in the knowledge. What information are we putting into our brains? If you watched 15 minutes less of TV, if you stopped and played, 15 minutes less on your phone, invest those 15 minutes daily to read a chapter, to move yourself forward, to improve and increase your intellect. Most people get to capable. Some work towards mastery. Which one are you? Capable, or are you pursuing mastery? Stack the deck against yourself. Stack the deck against yourself. Too many of us jump straight into trying the next thing versus learning the next thing. Again, tying this into what do we know, and how are we improving our intellect by studying and becoming not just proficient, but masters at what it is that we do. How can we show up? There are many people in this world that do the same thing that I do, but there's only one me. And I can become a master at my skills, my talents, doing and serving how I do and serve. That takes the competition out of the picture, because if you want to do business with me and use my systems, I'm the master at those. Not everybody can learn that. We all have different experiences, as I mentioned, how we're raised, the information that we learn, the life lessons that we've picked up along the way, and they're valuable to others. But finding that right ideal client for you and them seeing the value in your education, experience, and training, that's what mastery is all about, is not just being a solution like everybody else, but really mastering how you show up and how you serve people so that they get the best benefit. Learn the thing, don't just do the thing. And I have been guilty of that, I will say. In my notes, I said, just do it. Nike logo. I have the Nike swoosh there, and stop the excuses. Do we make up reasons why we can't spend 15 minutes a day to better ourselves? Getting up 15 minutes earlier, or 15 minutes shorter lunch break, or making quicker dinners so that you have those extra 15 minutes to learn and study. Stop the excuses. Make it rain. Go do it. It's easier than you think it is, right? There's no such thing as a how problem. They're all who problems. When I read this chapter, what it made me think about is Henry Ford. And obviously I was 18 when I got into business, so I didn't know squat, and I had to know the people that knew what I needed to be doing. I had my real estate license on my day after my 18th birthday. I took the test, and that gets you so far. I knew how to pass the test. I was one of those fortunate few that pass on the first try, but then it came to real life. That first buyer that walks through the door, it's like, what do I to find a map? Back then we didn't have phones, we didn't have GPS, we didn't, you had to get a map and you had to map it out, and you had to know where you were going to go to show them homes. And then I had to drive other people in my car. And, of course, many people had children my age. An 18-year-old kid, what could they possibly know about real estate? But I started spending time with all the people in my office. I would take them out to lunch. I would buy them, breakfast or coffee, and say, hey, can I pick your brain for a while? What is your process? How do you show people homes? How do you set up your maps? How do you find what it is that they're looking for? What questions do you ask to qualify your buyers? Or how do you do a presentation to a seller to make sure that you get that listing? I did all of those things in an effort to improve myself. I'm tapping into years of experience. I was a grunt to a gentleman who he drove a Cadillac to the office, and then he hopped in his Nova with his polyester suit or jacket on, super casual pants, maybe jeans, and he would go call on foreclosures and for sale by owners. He was a very wealthy man, but he showed up and related to them in a car that they might drive and wearing clothes that they may wear. And I got to shadow him. I got to be his grunt. I got to do some of his legwork and go to the recorder's office and learn what it is that he did to better myself. Sometimes we have to volunteer to be that person in somebody else's life so that we can learn from them. Just being in their proximity helps us to learn better, and watching and listening to what it is that people do. Henry Ford, it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. He said, I don't have to know everything, but I know the people that know everything, and that's what makes me successful. And I learned that really young. I was probably 18 when I was reading all those business books when I first learned that. So even though I may be a jack of all trades and a master of very little in my life, I know the people who are masters. They're in my network, and I get to tap into their resources and their knowledge. Peter is one of those guys. Check out the book. Number 6, your problems may not be a problem at all. Focus on God. I wrote that one in myself. Focus on God, fitness, family, friends, be a great human, leave a legacy. Focus on what you have, not on what you don't. I didn't tell you what was in the chapter. That's how he kind of wrapped it up there in the end. What do you want to focus on? Do you focus on your problems, or do you focus on the solution? Do you figure out what needs to be done to rectify a situation, to make it better? Do you find the gaps in how we can help people or be of better service? Or do you focus on the problem? Maybe it's not a problem at all. Problems are only opportunities to serve. Dig deeper and find out what the solution could be. Number 7, saying it's a huge problem is your brain lying to you. Issues don't scale. Most problems can be solved by finding a person with the suitable skill set. Again, that comes back to who's in your network. Who have you taken out to lunch? Who have you grabbed a cup of coffee with? Who have you done a one-to-one with this week? BNI is a international business networking group that's around the world, and they have kind of weekly quotas that they suggest. I don't know if they're mandatory or if they're a suggestion, but they want you to get in front of and do one-to-ones with 3 people a week. What 3 people have you met with this week? How can they contribute and improve your business? Your network becomes their network when they know you. When they know and trust you, they become people you can call on for solutions. They can be, they may know the people that you need to know. So it's important to get into different spheres, different networks. Don't continually run with the same people. How do you get into networking groups that will expand your resources? You're all invited to the morning rush. It's an executive, we call it an empowerment call, where there's usually a training, there's a breakout room, we have discussions. David Rush is the leader. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll be able to find it. No charge for it. It's a morning network empowerment call, and it's 8 a.m. Eastern time. So it's open to pop on Monday through Friday, and you'll meet people from all over the country and all over the world. We've gone international now and have people in other countries on there. So expand your network. It becomes the resource that will move your business forward. And, if you're a stay-at-home mom and listening to this, expand your network of other moms. Find moms who study herbs or holistic living. Have other resources on how to take care of your kids, how to pack a lunch, where do you get the best deals for shopping. It doesn't matter what you do on a day-to-day basis. Whether you're running a Fortune 500 company, a stay-at-home mom, running the household, everybody needs a network of people that they can tap into. I had a great call this week. I have a niece who's in college. She's in her, I think, second year, maybe almost third year, because she's moving through so quickly. She reached out to me and she said, Auntie Lisa, I need an internship. I have done all the regular channels, all the things that my teachers suggested. Um, you know, how do I find myself an internship? And I said, well, have you been to a chamber coffee? And she goes, a what? And I go, well, every town has a chamber of commerce. I said, you can go to the chamber of commerce in the town where your college is, or you can go to the chamber of commerce in the town where you're going to live for the summer or where you're going to be for winter break. Go to the chamber and ask them, when do they have the chamber coffee? Because that's when all the business owners in the area show up with their business cards, and they have coffee, and it's a social, and they chat, and you'll have an opportunity to introduce yourself to those people, to be face to face with them, to shake hands and tell them, I'm looking for an internship in cybersecurity. How, do you know anybody that may have that opportunity? Or do you know of anybody who's looking for an assistant? Just start talking to the business owners. Get off the Indeed and all of the different websites. She was telling me about all the college resources where they can post their resumes and look for jobs and things. And I said, get face to face with people. You haven't done that yet. Where can you go get face to face with people who are business owners? And the Chamber of Commerce is all business owners. What a great place to start. So she didn't know what she needed to know. She reached out to somebody older who may have been in business for a while to find a different answer outside of what her scope was. And you can do that. Who do you know? What problems are you dealing with right now? And how can you reach out to folks to find a new answer? Maybe not the right answer, but a new answer, a new path to follow until you can dig in and find that right answer for you. Worry isn't going to help us. We all worry. We get anxious. Has it ever solved a problem? Never. And then there's some statistics that say, I don't even dare throw them out there, because Peter would slap my hand and say, you need to do your research before you get on there. Know your numbers. But percentage wise, if all the worry in the world, how many times has something actually happened that you've worried about? Think about, your world, all the times that you've worried in the past about the kids, where they are, why they're late, all of those things. When we worry, we fill up space with anxiety and angst, but the majority of the time, nothing comes of it. It doesn't happen. What it is that we're worrying about dissipates, and it never happened. We can choose to think positively, and we can choose to think negatively. Why so often do we choose to think the negative versus the positive? Wow, they're out having a great time. No wonder they're late. I can't wait to hear about how their night went. Versus, oh my gosh, they're in a car accident. They're probably laying on the side of the ditch somewhere. That's something my mom would often say if I came in late. That was what was going through my mind. It was like, Mom, could just be happy for me. I was out. I had friends. Some of us don't have friends. I was being social. Sorry, I didn't call. And I started to get better at that. I made sure that I called and let her know where I was in the future if I was going to be late, which was often. But we have a choice to use our brain, and we can think about the positive. We can think about the negative. We can put it upon our heart that good things are always happening to us, or we can see life with a dark cloud over our head. Why do you want to worry? It doesn't serve. Maybe stop, maybe shift it, change how you're thinking about things. Number 9, following your success will lead you to your fears. I'm sorry. I totally messed that up. Following your stresses will lead you to your fears. It's hard to read a book. I'm not used to having notes. I usually just get to interview and talk and speak to people. But when I decide to pull a book in, I better pay attention to what I'm reading. Following your stresses will lead you to your fears. Pretending we are stressed and not scared is disingenuous. We're being dishonest. It kind of goes back to the chapter 1 and 2. What are the excuses? I don't know that we realize that they're excuses, but when we don't look at for real why we're feeling something, if we're saying we're stressed instead of admitting our fears, we can't get through it. We can't get to the solution. Life is hard and sometimes it's fearful. So, lean into those fears, face them head on. There's this acronym called false evidence appears real. Fear stands for false evidence appears real. Sometimes fear is just not the truth. We're looking at things that are false and we're seeing them as something that they are not. It's false evidence that's appearing real. So rather than stuffing those fears or pretending they don't exist or making excuses or calling it stressed, instead of saying, I'm afraid to pick up the phone and make those 25 calls a day, or I'm afraid to get up and do that presentation that I know will move my business forward. I'm afraid to go to a networking group because I don't know what I'm going to say to people. Where are the fears in your business? Where are the fears stopping you in your life? And how can you confront them, address them, actually just look at them, write them down and say, who can help me with this? Who can help me move through these fears? Find out what's scaring you, acknowledge it, and try to move through it. Number 10, important and urgent are not the same thing. Important is a measure of severity. Urgency is a measure of time. Peter also says urgency is just poor planning. Urgency is just poor planning. Figure out what's important to people. What matters? What is it that they want and why do they want it? How can you help them get what they want? Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough other people get what they want, you will get what you want. Number 11, laugh or leave. Don't stay and moan. There's some truth to that. Sometimes I'm guilty. I have a pity party now and then. I have a friend. I went through a divorce after being with my former husband for 29 years, and I was prone to some pity parties. And I had a girlfriend who would call me up and say, "Are you having a pity party? I'm setting the timer right now, 5 minutes." And then you get your butt off the couch and you go out and you serve somebody. Go see somebody at the hospital. Go do something. Pity parties don't need to last a lifetime. And it really made a difference. I stopped. Now when I get in that state of mind, I set a timer and I hear her voice in my ear and it says, all right, the pity party begins now. You have 5 minutes, 5 minutes to feel bad, 5 minutes to, moan and groan and feel sorry for yourself. And then get off the couch and get out and do something. Take action, even if it's just going for a walk and getting the fresh air on your face or going for a walk in the rain. It changes your state. Move your body, get out of the pity parties. Stop thinking about, the moaning and the groaning. How about that? All right. Number 12, I don't know what to do is because you made a wrong assumption early on. I thought this is really interesting and I had to contemplate it. I had to really think about this and look back at my life on those times where I've said to myself, I don't know what to do. And I'm kind of in that place right now with my business. Some changes have happened, some company changes have happened, and I'm not sure what direction I want to go in at the moment. And again, looking at this, what wrong assumption did I make early on when I started down this path? So I've been playing around with this one a lot. He says here, I've found people almost always know the answer to their problems, even if they don't have the courage to take action on it. And it's true. I've been journaling about, what's the next chapter? What do I want in the future? What is it going to look like? How am I going to create that residual income that I've been longing for so long? What company do I want to partner with to be able to do that? Am I going to be in an entrepreneurial position, or do I want to partner with someone, work for somebody else to support their dreams? Because I've, lived a heck of a life. I've been incredibly blessed over the last 40 years. So what's the wrong assumption that you may have made? Are you struggling with something that says, I don't know what to do, or I didn't know what to do? Reflect back and see if something comes up. Is there assumption that you made? And can you fix it? Can you go back and change it and find out the right information rather than assuming anything? Get down to the details, dig deeper, be curious, learn, and shift gears so that you get back on the right path and you're headed in the right direction. All right. Number 13, inefficiency will always be resolved. What resonated for me on this chapter is I was taught that, opportunity comes in finding the solution. Opportunity comes in problems. When something isn't working, you can become the solution for that. You can find a better way, a simpler way. You can find the truth in doing something. So opportunity comes out of those times when there is a problem. So how do you become the solution? And that's when I read the word inefficiency, to me, that's like, what's not working optimally and how can you improve it? That creates an opportunity for you as an entrepreneur to get paid to make a change, to do something better. Same is true, if you're running a household, where there are inefficiencies in, getting the kids off to school in the morning, where are the inefficiencies in getting the laundry done, keeping the house clean, putting in organizational tools so that you can, the kids know where their book bank hangs on a hook. My niece is a mother of more than a dozen. So they're a foster family and they have a lot of kids in the house, but everybody has their spot, whether it's a nook cubby for their books or for their shoes and bag, or it's a hook for them to hang their coat on. If kids know where to put their stuff, the house stays a lot more peaceful. It stays calm. It stays clean. It stays tidy. There's organization that happens. And the same is true for our business. What CRM are you using? What are you using to market yourself online? What social media apps are you using? What tools and resources do you have? Find the inefficiencies and clean them up, because you get your time back when you do that. And you also can be a solution to somebody else's problems. Number 14, model the process, not the outcome. Yeah, a lot of times we find people who are successful and we want to do what they do. But again, we all have different experiences. We come from a different place in our life. So how do we model their processes? How did they prepare? How did they learn? How did they get their body ready, their mind ready? How did they set up their day? What tools were they using? Model the process, not necessarily the person. In most things in life, there is a right. And I love this. Peter says, there is always a right answer, even if it eludes us. And this one's challenging for me, right and the wrong. My right and wrong are more fluid than Peter's are, because I believe that right is different for me than right for somebody else because of our experiences and things. But his intellect would encourage me to dig deeper, and the two of us can both find a right answer that is right for both of us. And we don't have to agree to disagree. There is a right answer for everything, is what he's saying. And that is, that comes from seeking the truth and being curious and finding the truth. Ego set aside, excuses set aside, just purity of the truth. So pursue it. Number 16, it's impossible stops us from looking at stops us from looking. Most things can be done. Most things can be done. Have you ever said that? Oh, it's impossible. I think of times where I have said that, oh, I can't do this. I can't get through this. This is never going to work. I think about, being single again after being in a committed relationship for 29 years. It's like, oh my gosh, it's impossible. I don't even know what I like. I don't even know what kind of food I like because, it was always a joint effort. I don't know what kind of vacations I like because it was a joint effort and it felt impossible. And until I started one step at a time, living through and moving through what felt impossible, what felt like mud that I was like pulling my feet out and trying to move forward, and everything felt so hard. But then this entire world open up of things that I wasn't doing or didn't do because I was in this, committed couples relationship. Now I'm single and things look differently for me as a single person. Same in business. Maybe it's hard to get through. Where's the money coming from to pay the employees? Where's the money coming from to pay your virtual assistant? Sometimes things can get really hard in business. So how do we stop using the words impossible and saying, if all things are possible, what's the solution here? That's that 180-degree view, like flip it inside out. What is possible? Okay, maybe I can't do this over here yet, but what can I do to move in that direction? How can I get closer to the possibility of that? And you never know, maybe that thing that's impossible will be done before you know it. So, it's food for thought anyway. Fail, learn, grow, succeed, and repeat. Yeah. Einstein once said, failure is success in progress. I love that quote from this book. When you don't achieve the outcomes, you have three choices, he says. Peter says, quit, continue to do the same, or learn and adapt. And I put check marks by each of them because there have been times where I quit. And there have been times where I continued to do the same thing. I might be doing that right now, in all honesty. And there are absolutely times when I learned and I was able to adapt. And if we were to commit to that learning and adapting process, we take back our time because we don't sit in the times that don't work. We don't stay stuck in the problems. When something isn't going our way, looking at it, figuring out what it is that we need to learn, finding those people, like from the early chapters when we talked about who who can help you to learn and adapt, who can make the difference. Put your money into investing in coaches or advisors or people that can get you out of the slump. Sometimes that's a better place to invest our money, is to go find somebody who's been there before. So you might find a mentor who can do it for free, but what if you had to invest in those people that are going to launch your next opportunity, or find those people who can make a difference in your health or your wellness? Fail, learn, grow, succeed, and repeat. It's all a process. Every single one of those is a step. We can't succeed without first failing. Most people don't succeed right out of the chute. Ask anyone who has accomplished anything huge in their life. They've had failures. Even athletes, Michael Jordan is one. You've probably all heard the story. He was denied and wasn't put on the varsity team right away. And he had to go practice and learn and adapt and grow. So whether it's an athlete, an Elon Musk, a Bill Gates, a Steve Jobs, anybody who's accomplished success in their life had failures, and we will too. We're going to follow in that same stepping stone path. But it's the persistent, consistent action that helps us to move forward and become successful. Going all in or don't bother starting. Yeah. Isn't that the truth? Like, there are times where I've dipped my toe in and I wasn't successful. I've run 2 or 3 different projects at the same time, and they're all mediocre, rather than saying, this is where I'm going to put all my focus, all my energy, all my attention, and I will, succeed. I will achieve success with this one. And I can always do those other 2 later. But when we start to split up our energies, when we shift our focus to different things, when we start to juggle balls, even when a juggler is juggling, they have to focus on the ball that they're catching and the ball that they're throwing. And they can't do them at the same time, or they would never succeed. The focus is quickly shifting from one to the next, but it has to be focused in order to succeed. So where are you focusing your energy? How are you leaning into going all in on what it is that you want to accomplish next in your life. I'm going to do 2 more of these and then we'll wrap it up for today. Applying the relevance of the lifeguard theory. Lifeguards are taught one lesson. Your principal responsibility as a lifeguard is not the safety of those in your care, but the safety of yourself. Isn't that interesting? It's like, yes, I'm going to save your life, but if I put myself in jeopardy, we both go down. So I have to make sure that I'm safe in how I go about pulling you out of the ocean, how I go about, getting you out of the swimming pool. How are you taking care of yourself? What lifeguard principle are you applying? What does your daily self-care look like? Are you keeping your mind sharp? Are you keeping your body healthy? Doesn't matter what industry you're in. I've talked to many people who had a lot of wealth and became sick because as an herbalist, I was in practice for a long time. And so I would meet people who had money and they would give up all the riches that they had for a little bit more health. They would give up all the riches that they had so that they could feel healthy again and have one more day to live. And that's so true. We strive and we aim to make money and to provide for our families and to grow beautiful spaces to live in. But yet our health is failing because of our stress, because we don't take care of ourselves. Our self-care is out the door. It's just strive and strive and strive and strive. Maybe we need to reevaluate that a little bit and say, hey, the most important principle is not money, it's not the things, but it's the self-care that I do. How do I take care of myself? How do I keep my mind sharp, my attitude positive, my body healthy? What are your self-care practices? And the last one that we'll do today is be flexible with the how and resolute with the what. To achieve what you want, be uncompromising in the pursuit and flexibility of your approach. Uncompromising and flexible in your approach. That's where I'll leave it today. This is the book. Here, I'm going to put it in front of me. You could be proud or rich. You decide, let's get out of our ego and into being a kind, loving person, showing up in the world for those that we love and serving at the best, at the highest capacity that we can, serving and seeking truth. Those are some of my big takeaways from those first chapters. This is a great book. Like I said, I've gone through it so many times. Every time I'm struggling with something, I flip it open and these words of wisdom just kind of bounce off the page and it causes my brain to shift and look in a different direction. So, and remember, all the proceeds again go to Lemonade Day. All the profits from this book go to Lemonade Day, which is an inner city charity for young entrepreneurs to get kids out there and making money so that they can provide for themselves in the future. I hope you take advantage of that. Look at the book is on Amazon if you want to go ahead and get it. And you know what? I'm going to continue this. I'm going to do it one more week because I want to work my way through the whole book and share these principles with you and give it its due. Peter's amazing, intellectual, kind-hearted person who's generous, so generous. And I want to acknowledge and thank him for the influence that he's had on me. He really has offered me some no nonsense, valuable life lessons. And there's some great takeaways in here. And I hope that you're enjoying it as well. All right, folks, if you need some help with your social media, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you get started or expand your brand online. You can go to my website at lisamosbey, MOSBEY.com and book some time. We'll chat about what it is that you're doing, what's working, what's not working, and see if we can't find a solution for you. All right. Thanks so much for listening. Appreciate you. Come on back next week.